So, how much job today you? Plenty of school.
The workload. They work too much. And the company got no idea about it.
Our parents work so hard and suffer. And we are still suffering in this inhumane condition.
Probably I was sick the whole of last week. I was very...
We still have job to do. Don't we, boys?
We struggle too long. We work too hard. We have to change this today. We are passing a strike. Now! What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?
Man, it's how long are you going to be continuing like this now?
Just waste more, man. I want to do right now. Just waste more.
If we sit here, we shall die.
I was telling you, man. I was cheating that woman.
Melvin, you were glad you moved to America? What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say the way you want to run away to go to America.
Why can't we go to America?
We begged them to break our backs. We begged them to treat all like dogs.
Two heads are not equal. That does not risk the same thing. We're not the same. Maybe you will understand someday.
George, don't be afraid, okay?
Amazing. What a powerful film. That was Out of My Hand by filmmaker and one of our guests, Takeshi Fukunaga. The film follows a struggling Liberian rubber plantation worker, Cisco, who risked everything to discover a new life as a yellow cab driver in New York City. What's up, Brooklyn? This is the Bushwick Film Festival's Indie Film Talk on Brooklyn Independent Media. I'm your host, Kwebe Koti, founder and director of programming of the Bushwick Film Festival. On the show today is Takeshi Fukunaga, who is an award-winning filmmaker and director of the trailer we just previewed, Out of My Hand. Nicholas Santos, who is a Brooklyn-based writer and director known for his film Worlds Recreated, which was a part of the Bushwick Film Festival short film program and is currently in production with his latest film, A Good Fish. Kendra Parks, who is a New York-based writer-director currently living in Paris and whose film Black Girl in Paris was recently picked up by HBO. And Lacey Dorn, who is a writer, director, and actor, best known for her film Frontera, which won a number of awards and was a part of the Bushwick Film Festival short film program in 2012. How to overcome indie film pains is the topic of today's conversation. If you're an indie filmmaker, you know exactly what they are. Creative blocks, funding, and distribution, the whole thing. So, Lacey, I'll start with you. And everyone, please feel free to jump in. What are some of the difficulties you face as an independent filmmaker?
Big question. I think everyone here would agree that it's a small, or maybe not so small, miracle to actually finish a film. You have to start with convincing people that your crazy idea is good enough to fund it so you can start the process. And then making a film requires the collaboration and devotion and focus of so many different people that it's amazing any day on set goes at all. I mean, the PA in charge of ordering lunch or buying new batteries can have as much of an impact on the day's shoot as the lead actor who is having a breakdown or the boom shutting down unexpectedly. So really you need everything in line for just a day of narrative shooting to go right. Many issues. And in a documentary, it's all about capturing spontaneity. So you need to be at the right place at the right time, have everything working smoothly.
So like, what's the most difficult part? Is it post-production? Is it during production, or I mean, which part of the whole process do you find the most challenging? Anybody can jump in.
I feel like each different process has its own set of nightmares that you can run into. With pre, I always feel like it's more funding, and I always feel like that's the biggest obstacle in any film. And then there's casting. And then with production, anything can go wrong, and it's all just about being able to solve those problems while things are going wrong during production. And then post is basically you're even retelling the story a different way than it was in the script, a different way it went during production, and you basically just have to reassemble that into what works from there.
Yeah. And Takeshi, I mean, your film, you just shot it in Liberia. That's a international setting. Like what challenges did you run into? I know, I mean, did you have some electrical challenges? Because I know that the country is.
Shooting Liberia, I don't know where to begin really. There are so many challenges we faced, and one of them is, like I said, electricity. We had to run generator, when we have any. Even if you're shooting in the daytime, we still have to run it for the data transfer station. And weather was one of the problems. Like it was dipping into the rainy season, and then just so many days that the shoot got stopped because of the rain, because it's not the kind of rain we used to. It's just like really hard, like harsh rain, and then like the sun was so harsh too. But I mean. At the end of the day, we had such a overwhelming support from the community and the Liberia Movie Union, and of course, cast and crew, and we got all we needed to get there, and then it was just a very, very special experience I had.
Did the Liberian government or any other international organization help support the film?
Liberia government. I mean, kind of indirectly, because Liberia Movie Union is an affiliation of a government, and then all the funding is coming from that government, and so whatever they do, the movie union is part of what government do, kind of. So we had a great support from them, and that made the whole shoot and getting permission much smoother, and then right now we are trying to shoot the rest of the movie in New York, and then the government is going to fund for the travel expenses for the cast and crew.
Okay, amazing. And Keandra, I know you also shot a film internationally.
Yeah.
You shot in Paris. Tell us about Black Girl in Paris, and what are some of the things you faced in the process?
Wow. Well, first of all, we shot on 35mm film. And we had the film donated by Kodak, some of the film donated by Kodak. And so we had to take the film with us. And a portion of it got stuck in customs. So we were actually on set shooting a film, and we ran out of film, and customs still would not give us our film. So we had to rearrange shooting days and go to customs and beg them and pay them €500 to get the film out of customs. And then when we got the film out of customs, we tried loading. We got down to the last roll of film, and we tried loading it, and someone had dropped it, and it was bent. The core was bent.
Okay.
And my producer and I, because we're film students, we actually know how to handle film. But it was a Saturday at noon in Europe. Everything closes. So we went to Panavision, and we were like, is there anybody who could re-spool this film for us? And they were like, no, but we can give you a dark room, and you'll have to go in there and do it yourself. And we looked at each other, and we were like, come on, girl, we got to do this. We got to make this happen. This is the last roll of film. We have no money to buy more film.
Yeah.
And we went in a dark room and re-spooled a 35mm can of film.
Wow.
And it was tough, but we did it. And we didn't know if we had spooled it on the right side until we got it developed. And luckily, we learned enough at NYU that we did it correctly, but it was tough.
That's definitely indie film pain.
Yes.
Luckily, you went to film school for that. So did the French government support you guys at all, or was it all funded?
No, the French government did not support us. It was a student film,
Okay.
And we didn't spend enough money to actually make, for it to make sense for the French government to support us. And none of us were citizens. The two actors, one was British and the other was American. And in the European Union, you have to have a certain amount of points before the French government, which is either meaning that you have actors who are French, you have all French crew, so they, that's the way that they organize funding for the French films. So we didn't get any French funding, but we did get a lot of donations. We got the camera donated. We got $1 million, camera, 35 millimeter.
I thought you were
camera.
saying we got $1 million.
No, we got $1 million camera.
You should have shot a feature film with
No, we got $1 million
$1
camera and all the bells and whistles that came with the camera, because I had
Wow.
an award-winning cinematographer working for me, and they love when you shoot film, these film houses. So they gave us a camera, we had some film and a little bit of money, and we made a movie. So it was amazing.
It's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you are in the middle of raising money, right?
Yes.
To finish your film.
Yes.
How's that going?
Wow. Very, very tough. It's another challenge us all independent filmmaker facing, I guess. So we shot 70% of the movie in Liberia, and then now we are trying to raise 30%. Money to finish shooting the rest of the movie in New York. And we just launched the Kickstarter campaign about like 3 weeks ago. We have like 9 days left, and but still far from the pledged goal. And it's much more, much harder than I was expecting this work. And this.
You mean raising the money?
Raising the money.
Yeah.
I mean, like just all the arranging events and then contacting people, and then just. I guess it's part of the. It's not just for the funding, but the challenges we're facing is like you have to wear so many different caps. So you can't just be a director. You have to be a promoter. You have to be, be tweeting. Doing a Facebook and all that stuff. And then, so it's hard to be like almost like a consistent with your voice. Sometimes like you might say something you don't really intend to say, or but. You have, I guess you just have to be very aware of like what you're what you have to do, and then what you have to like protect as your
I definitely understand what it means to like wear many hats for sure. And speaking of raising money, I know Nicholas, you have a lot of short films on your website, and I'm interested, like how are you able to consistently create them and produce them and distribute them?
It's definitely a mix of our own funds and then funds we raise. With Worlds We Created, which was in the Bushwick Film Festival last year, we raised around $10,000 on Kickstarter. With the last one, we just did a Good Fish, which we just finished. That was all of our own funds, and hopefully we're planning on using that short film to try to help fund the feature version of that. So.
And when you say we, what do you mean by we?
My fellow colleagues at our production company called Bull Moose Pictures.
Okay, so your production company produces all of your films?
Yeah, we kind of trade off on who directs and who produces, and then we kind of just help each other out. And
yeah. That's definitely film school style, right?
Yeah. That's another one of the hard things is finding crew to work on your film, because a lot of times you don't have money to pay people, and and it's unfortunate, but you want to pay people, and finding crew is a very hard thing. So if you have like a production company where you direct sometimes and someone else does producing, it can be very helpful.
Especially as a young filmmaker, I think a lot of people who are out there as crew haven't quite figured out what they're passionate about. Or there's some people who have and some people who haven't. So someone might sign on to do sound for your film, not having that much experience to try it out. They decide partway through they're not that into it, and it reflects in their work because you're not able to pay them for it. But you also find really amazing collaborators who are discovering their passion by the same virtue.
So has it helped that James Franco was on your documentary? Did that help you raise more money, or?
So for that documentary, definitely. I met investors at Sundance, and then with the help of Rabbit Bandini, Franco's production company, raised money although we need a little bit more, for that future doc.
And what is it called again? I'm sorry.
It's called Metamorphosis Junior Year as of now. And there's a teen suicide epidemic in Palo Alto while I was an undergrad at Stanford in Palo Alto. And we followed a group of teenagers in the high school system, putting on a play about what was going on in the community and coping through the arts rather than more negative methods. So it's a big project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get to the next topic, distribution. Now that's also like a little bit of a gremlin sometimes. Like it's so hard to get a distributor. Have any of you guys worked with distributors before? And if you have, what has been the process? You know, I'm gonna start with Keandra because you just recently got picked up by HBO, right?
Right. And that happened through a film festival called the American Black Film Festival. And one of the advantages of being a part of the American Black Film Festival is that you are automatically linked into distribution through HBO, broadcast and distribution through HBO. And I found that it is a very tedious process because as an independent filmmaker, you have no idea that once your film is picked up, you're going to need insurance for every location that you're going to need a signature that every location owner said it was okay for you to shoot in their location, that every street sign that you have, you've gotten permission to use from the city.
Wow.
And so, so you don't realize these things when you're shooting. And that's why it's really good to have a good producer and a good line producer who is taking into account everything. And we were in Paris and we were shooting things like the Moulin Rouge. And we had no idea that we were gonna get picked up by HBO, but when HBO was like, okay, do you guys have permission to use the signage? And we went back to the Moulin Rouge and they were like, no, we can't give you permission to use this because we don't like what your film is talking about, the content of your film. So we had to go back after delivering a tape to HBO and edit out pieces of the film that we did not get the right to use.
Wow.
So when you think about distribution, you don't think about these things when you're making the film. And it's not until probably you get your first distribution deal that you are like, okay, this is an animal,
Yeah.
So
has anybody else had any experience with distributors? No?
I'm just beginning on Frontera, which was at Bushwick in 2012. The talks to get it distributed by this company that does online distribution called Snag Films. They actually own IndieWire, which we all, I'm sure, read. So I'm just starting the learning curve, and I'm excited for more people to see it, but also I'm about to make sure that we have all those things in check.
I was like, do you have all that in order?
And the other thing, you have to purchase an insurance called Emissions and Errors after the film is completely done, and they go through and check everything in your film to make sure there's not like a Coca-Cola sign that hasn't been authorized. So it's like insurance you get for your vehicle, now you have to get insurance for your film. Yeah.
Wow, that's so crazy. So, I mean, aside from distributors, I know we talked a little bit about funding. What do you guys use to raise funds? Aside from Kickstarter, are there any other platforms that people should know about that you go through, or do you do private funding? Like, what is your technique for raising the money for your creative projects?
I think it totally depends.
Yeah.
Was that a cricket?
Yeah. There is no technique.
There's no technique. You just like, give me some money. Please, can I have some money?
Yes. I did Kickstarter for Frontera. We raised $7,000 and was able to take advantage of access to really great locations to boost that production value. For Metamorphosis Junior Year, we found private investors, and obviously helps to have Franco's production company behind that. They've dealt with creating an LLC and having investors many times more than I. For Darknet Delivered, which is a narrative short that we're in post on, we found a private investor who just really liked the idea and would love to see it turn into a feature one day. Which was pretty cool. All low budget, so not a huge ask. And on the I did an art documentary on Frank Bedart with James Franco, and that was so low budget. We were just attached shoots onto other shoots and did it all out of pocket for practically nothing. So that's my experience. Not very informative, maybe.
Takeshi, I mean, I know you're funding, but how did you raise the money for the first half of the film?
Well, it was all from. I mean, it's not an exciting story. It's a rather sad story. I mean, I used up all my saving I had. I mean, which I saved up to be able to shoot that, and then have some support from my family. And aside from that, I was lucky enough to find this private investor who believed in what I was trying to do and then supported me. But that was all the funding, how we put together the funding to be able to shoot there. And so we knew that we don't have enough to shoot the film all the way to the end, But we knew that at least we're going to have something to show to raise the money, which is now we are using it.
So how come you were so passionate about shooting the film in Liberia? Like, what's your connection?
Well, it's not so much about Liberia necessarily because, well, first of all, I found the story or the story about the rubber plantation in Liberia through working on this documentary about the subject, same subject. And then I was really moved by seeing like how positive people are, and then how how people still hold dignity despite the very severe working condition. And when I was trying to come up with an idea for my first feature, I wanted to do a story about the immigrant in New York, and then just naturally I thought about that as the background for the character. And yeah, I mean, when I first started, working on this project, I was questioning myself. Is it okay for me to tell a story about this person from Liberia? But then I saw that what I really want to do is to tell a universal story, and then there shouldn't be any border for that. So.
Cantor, did we already talk about what your techniques are?
Well, for financing?
Yeah, for financing.
I was pretty lucky with my first film and my second film that I just finished shooting. I was awarded the Spike Lee Fellowship Production Fund for this most recent film that I shot in Paris. And the film before that, I had a few angel investors. And one of the things that one of them taught me, because I was very afraid to ask for money, is like, you have to ask. And they were like, I'm not going to give you money unless you ask me for money. And so, I spent hours talking about my film and how great it's going to be and all the things that I wanted to do, but I was afraid to ask for money. So you just have to be brave enough to ask. One of the things that I'm learning now is I'm actually working with a lawyer who helped me with all the processes through the distribution and licensing with HBO. And I'm actually working with a sales agent now. And one of the things that I've learned is attaching talent to your films. If you can write for talent, like right now the next screenplay that I'm writing specifically for someone and presenting it to them. If you can get talent attached, really good, big name talent, then there's a better chance that you can get a sales agent to sell it. And for me, having some experience in Europe, Europe sales agents sometimes can get more money because there's a wider territory in Europe for selling American films rather than just one domestic U.S. market. There's France and Germany and all sorts of European countries and Asian countries and stuff like that. So finding out about sales agents and everything that goes along with that is very helpful in understanding.
Yep, those definitely are very layered ways of raising money.
And having just not only talent, which is probably the biggest help in raising money in my limited experience, but also just the whole, as much of a team together before you go and ask that on paper has complementing strengths is a huge help.
Yeah.
Getting it so you have as close to a ready to go package as possible before you're like, here, help me, look what I have.
Yeah, I would totally agree because I would not have been able to get 35 millimeter camera or film without attaching my cinematographer who had just won an award at Tribeca for cinematography. So absolutely right, you have to have a great team.
Who's your cinematographer?
Shlomo Gadar.
Okay, you mentioned him a few times. I'm like, who is
this
guy?
He's amazing. He won Best Cinematographer at Tribeca last year.
Okay.
And
for which film?
Una Noche.
Oh,
it's
really?
A film by
Lucy
Lucy
Malloy.
Yeah.
I love her in the film.
She's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to wrap it up a little bit, but before we move on, Bulmos Film Pictures. How do you guys raise the money for your productions?
It's always from a variety of different sources, personal, Kickstarter, small investors. We haven't made the jump to features yet, so right now we're really preparing on how to make our pitch and our film as marketable as possible, and how we're going really looking into attaching some more producers and a casting agent, which I know can go pretty far. So we're really just like entering that world as we're trying to make that jump with a couple projects that we have in development. So hopefully it works out.
Yeah, hopefully it does. Speaking of Una Noche, though, we did have a special screening of it at the Bushwick Film Festival last year.
Amazing film.
Yeah, it was really good. So the last topic is creative blocks, right? Which is like a big indie film pain, especially since you're like working a job or trying to find money or wearing so many different hats. Like, how do you get through your creative blocks? For me, when I'm trying to create, to get over blocks, I do like a bunch of like meditation, I'll do like a long walk, and I'll do all these like different things to try to get through it. How do you push through it? And who wants to start?
I'll start.
Yeah.
For me, mostly I make films about Black women, and they're very personal. So what helps me is I write about things that things that frighten me or things that scare me in my own personal life, and I just spend maybe 20 minutes and I write nonstop about things that scare me or things that, topics that I want to talk about, and that kind of opens me up to think about characters and what they might be afraid of or what motivates them, that sort of thing. So I use myself as a muse, I guess.
And
I feel with writing with creative blocks, I think the important thing is just keep writing, no matter if you think it's a bad idea or not, and just keep going. And if anything, it'll show you where not to go with what you're writing and what you're working on. So I think it's to try to write through that writer's block instead of just sitting there being like, I have no ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, I watched this like amazing video with a voice from Ira Glass. Like, is that, am I pronouncing right? Yeah.
Hourglass?
Ira Glass? Yeah,
oh,
okay.
Ira, yes, you're right. Sorry.
But anyway.
Is it Hour?
There's this amazing video called The Gap.
Yeah.
It talks about gap between like what you envision and what you actually come out of, and then but what makes you go beyond the gap is just the volume of work, and then I think it's very true that like you always have a gap, you always face run into like disappointment sometimes, but you just have to keep doing what you believe in, and sometimes it pays.
I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, being afraid of failure is certainly my biggest potential block, and still learning how to not be so afraid, because it's the ultimate enemy of creativity. But if I'm stuck writing, bringing on a writing partner just to talk through things has really been helpful for me, and accepting that it might take time and letting it fail and then reiterating a script or an edit is always a really constructive process, I think.
Yeah,
I would say also making writing habitual, making it a habit that you do all the time is important.
I agree, and I have to say that indie filmmakers definitely have a passion and a deep love for the craft, so that's definitely one thing that gets us through the block. Well, folks, I hate to say goodbye, but our time's up. Hopefully we were able to offer some helpful tips and insights. Warm thank you to all of our guests, and for you for tuning into Brooklyn Independent Media. One last thing, submissions are still open until June 30th for the 7th Bushwick Film Festival, and you can visit our website for more information. To take us out, here is the trailer for Keandra Park's Black Girl in Paris.
Je m'appelle Eden. Je suis